So you've been given the piece of paper from the envelope. Papers are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for the first round, once an intervention is made, you'll stop the discussion and then you'll proceed to the next round. And you'll assume the role indicated on your paper for the second round, and then begin discussing the second round topic. Repeat that for 3 and 4 also. If you're the person conducting the intervention, be sure to follow the intervention steps. First, describe what you see. Second, make the impact statement. And third, invite questions of what to do. So please, you'll refer to page 22 for the list of topics.
Mm-hmm.
And page 21 also has the descriptions of the 3 steps also. So whenever you're ready, feel free to start discussing topic number 1.
So what ideas do you have for how we might be able to recognize our volunteers? Anybody have experience with volunteer recognition you want to share with us? Maybe help us get started?
I'm sorry, I have a cough.
I think one of the things that's really important is whether it's an event or something just at the end of the year, each year, is making sure that we acknowledge the time and the effort that they put in.
The acknowledgements are really important. I did a lot of that in the job I used to have. We had all sorts of ways to acknowledge people. That's a great idea. I like that.
Okay. Other ideas or experience?
Well, I think it needs to be based on, participation and involvement, the people who
How do you
maybe
know
participate more.
what's participation
Well,
involvement? How would
somebody
you
who
define that?
participates, on a regular basis, on a daily or weekly basis, should probably get
Yeah.
a little bit more recognition than someone who shows up
I don't
once a
think
month.
somebody who shows up more or less should get more or less recognition. I mean, it's all important, but we should just recognize everybody.
Ted, do you have any experience with the recognition piece and have other ideas?
Yeah, we've done some things in my region, both monetary, small kind of gifts, as well as non-monetary.
We had
type.
gifts at ours too. We did
did.
pins and pens and flags and, ties. We gave people Red Cross ties.
Mhm.
There are lots of things you can do.
I think the swag is nice, but I think even just acknowledging, their time and their efforts is really important. And they don't all care if they get an actual gift as well. So I think keeping that in mind as well.
So we do have some budgetary constraints as well, right? And so we do have to be sensitive to any kind of monetary recognition, and that it doesn't
I bet
get
we
out
could
of hand.
fundraise and get some people to back if we wanted to buy stuff, we could find somebody to fundraise and do it. Have a bake sale or, go and ask donors.
Yeah. So Louise, one of the things, I don't know if, Steve, you have something else to say, but I've noticed that you're kind of interrupting every time, and I'm not sure if that's kind of keeping some of the group quiet and sharing that. And it's having, I think, some impact potentially on getting lots of other ideas on that. So I think you've come up with some great ideas. If we could just take some time and make sure that everyone has a chance as
Okay.
well, that would benefit all of those. I don't know if others have ideas on that as well.
Okay.
Great, you hit all the 3 components. You said what you noticed, you said the impact it could be having, maybe not hearing all of the ideas, and how do we get some of the others? How did that feel?
I was ready to kick her under the table.
Yeah, right.
No, it was fun. It was better than the first time.
Okay, good. Well, let's move on to round 2 and see how that one goes.
So how would we encourage a new stakeholder to join the local community organizations active in disaster? Does anybody have any experience with that?
Well, I think we have to reach out to folks that might be aligned with the mission of the COAD, and give them some insight as to what we do and what the COAD's all about. That's probably a new term for most partners in the community. So this could be something very new to them. So I think there's an educational component as well as finding folks who might be aligned with our mission.
I think also making sure that all of the the needs and the diversity of the community are represented here, because I think right now, we could probably all agree, not everyone's at the table today with us. So, kind of thinking about that and making sure that we extend the invitation out to those other groups, to
We
make that
sponsor,
happen.
he mentioned mission, we sponsor missions at our church, especially with our youth programs. We let them go out and help diverse groups of people to, to maybe build, rebuild something in the community. And we work on certain projects that benefit, diverse groups, through our mission trips. And we fundraise for those through, we have different kinds of fundraisers that we do. We do, soup sales and sandwich sales to get people involved.
Mhm. Other thoughts on how to get partners in our COAD?
I think around a particular event. So
Okay.
if we have an event, and then again, extending an invitation out to different organizations that we haven't maybe traditionally had at that event, so.
We could host a dinner at our church. I mean, we have a really good kitchen facility, and food always brings people out to events, so we could help with that to get people involved.
So, Steve, I noticed you seem to be going back and referencing your church and some of the things you've done there and how diverse it is. I'm a little concerned that might be straying off our topic here and impacting the group or causing us to go off base. What do you?
Well, I thought we were talking about how we can support the community.
Well, we're trying to focus on how to get more participation in our COAD, and so while some of the things you might have done in the church translate here, I just want to make sure that we're all staying on point in terms
Oh.
of our recommendations.
Okay.
Okay. So would you be able to?
Yeah. Well, I'll listen a little bit more to see what,
Okay.
what you're all talking about. Maybe I'll get a better understanding of
Okay,
what that
that
is.
sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
Great. You said what you noticed, he's talking about his church a lot, the impact it's having, getting a little off track, and, maybe we'll stay focused on this for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I don't know if the ending was so clear in terms of the action, but first two steps were pretty good, you think?
Yep.
All right.
Let's roll on
All right.
to topic number 3, in round 3.
Okay, so the question for 3 is, who is a key influential leader in your community? How have you or will you include that person in your mobilized planning?
Well, I think that we've got some local youth groups that are, have some key influential leaders, and I'd really like to build a relationship there and engage their groups so that we meet our goals of bringing in more youth volunteers, even if it's kind of indirectly with the Red Cross, getting those folks to help on preparedness operations or disaster operations.
I think the leaders of faith-based organizations would also be important to make sure. They have a lot of kind of influence and also respect in the community.
And civic organizations as well, they oftentimes come from, the community that we're trying to influence, and they'd be great
Yeah,
partners.
I like your idea about the civic leaders, because the civic leaders really have, a strong presence in this community. They're business leaders, they have a really, I think it's very important that our business people get involved with what the community has to, or what the needs of the community are. I think they're really aware of those needs, and very realistic, awareness of those needs within the community.
And what about like schools, and in addition to the faith-based community schools, there's a university in town, they employ, or people that employ a lot of
Yeah, I
people
mean,
in the town?
I don't know how dependent the faith-based, organizations are. I mean, I just don't, I really haven't had a whole lot of experience working with them. I think some of the ideas that you've come up with are pretty good.
So, could I just take a break for a second here? Alicia, I noticed that you're having trouble focusing on what we're talking about. Your body movements are, all over the place. You're tapping, is there something going on? It's a little distracting for the group. Is there something
Oh,
going on?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I have been a little bit distracted, and I think it's been maybe just a long day for me.
Okay.
I apologize to
Sure, sure.
Great, you described what you were seeing, you said it's been a little distracting, let me know what's going on. Awesome. Round 4.
Good. Okay, so our next topic, the question is, which stakeholders should you always include in mobilized discussions?
I think definitely leaders of community-based organizations. They're providing the programs and the services to the community. They, I think, are ones that know best what the needs are throughout the community. So making sure that they're at the table.
And I think also government organizations, I mean, not government agencies, leaders within
Yeah.
those would be important always within a community.
Okay, good.
Yeah, local government, of course, include those folks.
Okay, good. And does anyone have anything else? Because we're on the last topic here, and you know, we're reaching our time limit. Excuse me, Ted, do you think, so we can finish up here, do you just give us you know, let us finish up this activity and give us your attention to be able to do that? Anything else you would like to add to summarize?
No, I think I've said all I had to say.
So Steve, so you noticed him doing something that was disruptive, and you know, asked him if he could bring back his focus, and that worked. What would happen if, just for practice sake, if you went through the steps of describing the behavior, the impact, and then the request?
So what I would have said was, Ted, you know, I think, you know, you've been distracted, you're distracting us, you're talking while others are talking. And I think as I said, the impact of that was that it distracted us. We weren't really sure what you were up to, you know, kind of broke some thought processes. And I think it was just important that you know, participate a little bit more actively with us.
Okay, I can do that.
Great. So I think what's important to remember about things like this is that we all have our little tricks of the trade, right? And Steve, you kind of used yours of just, hey, can we focus in here? And that works a lot of the time. Sometimes the interventions also happen when you've done that multiple times and it still hasn't worked. You know, so then it's kind of, okay, now I need to say, here's the behavior I'm noticing, here's the impact it's having. You know, let's say Ted continued to do that throughout the rest of the day. And so these are just kind of, so I guess the reason I'm saying that is use what you're comfortable with. And these intervention skills can be used the first time, but they can also be used if you need to later, if the behavior continues.